Thank you for that introduction. It's the best one I've had since the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal, where it was like an assembly line of comedians, and the MC came and each one got about 5, 6, 7 minutes, and he said, "Just tell me something about yourself when I introduce you." So I just said, "Oh, just say I'm a social satirist." So about 10 minutes later, it's my turn. He gets to the microphone. He says, "Our next comedian is Paul Krassner. He's a psychopath, a sociopath." Yeah. So, and then everything went downhill from then. So, as you can see, I've put some bookmarks in here, and there's a foreword in this book by Arianna Huffington, which you can read on my website, paulkrassner.com. So there's 45 pieces in this. I'm going to try and read some snippets from as many as I can just to give you a sense of the eclectic nature of this, which is just a euphemism for haphazard. This is from a section called "We Have Ways of Making You Laugh." The truth is silly putty. With the advent of Photoshop and the ability to alter images imperceptibly, the maxim "pictures don't lie" can now be buried in the outdated metaphors graveyard, along with "that's like bringing coals to Newcastle, they finally ran out of coal," and "as good as gold." For all we know, Fort Knox is currently filled with stacks of shredded wheat. When Rolling Stones guitarist Keith Richards told a reporter that he had snorted his father's ashes mixed with cocaine, I believed him. But when he claimed this was only an April Fool's joke, I believed that too. And when he said later that the real meaning of his statement was lost in translation, that he was merely trying to express how tight the relationship with his father had been, I also believed that. All three responses were possible, even probable. Steve Allen once observed, "Comedy is tragedy plus time, but everything is accelerating. Even the rate of acceleration is accelerating. The time between tragedy and comedy gets shorter and shorter. The more news there is, the more victims there are to serve as setups for punchlines. On the same day that people were being burned alive in the fire at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Jay Leno did a joke in his Tonight Show monologue about there being two kinds of cult members there, regular and crispy. In January 2009, on the same day that a plane crashed into the Hudson River, Leno did jokes about it, but since nobody died, that rendered the accident more acceptable as a source of humor. In September 2008, on the same day that the stock market dove 500 points and Hurricane Ike devastated Texas, Stephen Colbert said, "Thank God I have my money stashed on a boat in Galveston." In November, 10 days after the election resulted in a revocation of the rights to same-sex marriage in California, and while the fires in California were becoming increasingly catastrophic, Bill Maher, in his opening monologue on Real Time, acknowledged the seriousness of those spreading flames. I knew it was a straight line, and I cringed with curiosity as to what the punchline might be. Quote, "But the fires could have been much worse," said Maher. "Gay people could have been married." In April 2009, while swine flu deaths were still occurring, Jon Stewart managed to find comedy in the possibly impending pandemic. If you host a daily satirical program, it becomes a matter of topicality über alles. When it was first decided that a fence would be installed to prevent Mexicans from sneaking across the border into the U.S., I was performing stand-up and announced that the government is now hiring illegal immigrants to build a fence that will keep themselves out of this country. Some months later, in December 2006, the Golden State Fence Company in Southern California agreed to pay nearly $5 million in fines for hiring undocumented workers. And the company's work actually included constructing parts of the fence separating Tijuana from San Diego. That might seem like satirical prophecy, but reality has long been nipping at the heels of satire. In fact, during the past several years, with ever-increasing frequency, reality has been outrunning satire. It wasn't a comedian who said there was a pair of dinosaurs on Noah's Ark. It was a creationist sincerely trying to reconcile the disconnect between science and religion. Okay, here's a little snippet just about Lenny Bruce. In 1960, let's see, in 1964, Lenny Bruce was found guilty of an indecent performance at the Cafe Au Go-Go in Greenwich Village. In 2003, New York Governor George Pataki granted Bruce a posthumous pardon, but it was in the context of justifying the invasion of Iraq. Quote, "Freedom of speech is one of the great American liberties," Pataki said, "and I hope this pardon serves as a reminder of the precious freedoms we are fighting to preserve as we continue to wage the war on terrorism." Lenny would have felt exploited and bemused. Okay. Larry Craig. Do you remember Larry Craig? Okay, just not to give any background. Larry Craig merely wanted to remain a senator so that he could continue perpetuating anti-gay legislation. It all leads back to William Bennett, former education czar, drug czar, morality czar, and gambling czar. When he was questioned about Gary Condit, the California congressman who led the effort to impeach Bill Clinton for lying about his affair with Monica Lewinsky, after Condit admitted that he himself had had an affair with an intern, Chandra Levy, a reporter asked Bennett whether he thought that Condit was being hypocritical. "Hypocrisy," Bennett replied, "is better than having no values at all." That became my mantra for a whole month. Okay, let's see here. Okay, this was a piece called "Fear and Laughing in Las Vegas." I'll just read a little snippet from that. "I told Jerry Seinfeld, I'm covering this for the nation. Chris Rock interjected, the Nation of Islam? We were in Las Vegas where Mayor Oscar Goodman had recently suggested that those who deface freeways with graffiti should have their thumbs cut off on TV. At the first annual comedy festival, a 3-day laugh quest featuring some 35 shows. A ticket for all events cost $1,500. There was a panel about comedy with Seinfeld, Rock, Robert Klein, and Gary Shandling, moderated by CNN news anchor Anderson Cooper. Shandling asked Cooper, "What do you do one night when you're just not feeling funny?" Seinfeld later received the first annual The Comedian Award, given to a performer who has most influenced and furthered the art of comedy. He said, "I'm honored, but awards are stupid. Every insurance company, hotel, car dealer, they get these jack-off trophies." So it was his way of being fair and balanced. Okay, let's see. After the terrorist attacks, Larry King asked Bill Maher how soon it would be all right to be funny again. Quote, "So like 2 months, that's a good time? 1 month is a good time?" King also asked Dr. Andrew Weil, "Are bulimics throwing up more often?" Just a little quickie there. Let's see. I was in Australia for a book conference a few years ago, and here's the paragraph I want to read. "Australia still has a bizarre puritanical streak. In December 2008, a man was convicted of possessing child porn for having lewd images of The Simpsons on his hard drive. He could have been sentenced to prison for up to 10 years, but instead he was fined $3,000 and placed on 2 years probation. He appealed the decision, arguing that fictional cartoon characters could not be considered people, as they plainly and deliberately departed from the human form. But the judge found that even while the Simpsons characters had hands with 4 fingers and their faces were markedly and deliberately different to those of any possible human being, the mere fact that they were not realistic representations of human beings did not mean that they couldn't be considered as people." Let's see. A few days before Obama selected Joe Biden as his running mate, Tommy Chong, in an interview with the Washington Post, was asked what the average citizen could do to further the cause of decriminalization.